You're listening to the best of Phil's Gang.
The stocks discussed on Phil's Gang are not in any way a recommendation or solicitation to buy, sell, or hold. If considering acting on information presented, we first recommend you seek out a competent, licensed professional for advice. Get ready for the radio show that tells you what Wall Street doesn't want you to know.
Oh, I'm a money magnet. Money's coming to me. Money sets me free. I'm a money magnet. Money's coming to me.
It's your daily dose of how to manage your money. And now it's time for Phil's Gang on the Off the Wall Street Radio Network. With your host, Phil Grandy.
Well, my good friend, Craig Roberts, we've been talking together for years. I always enjoy having him come on my show, and I thought it'd be appropriate to come on because we like talking politics. We like talking business, of course. So I enjoy having him on. And Craig, great guy, Salem Communication. God, he's been there for 500 years. And he's on K-Down 1220. And also what's exciting is I'm on a new station, KTRB 860. And they're putting that station together, and it's a big station. It's 50,000 watt, and they're getting that up and running. We're really excited about that because that's right in San Francisco. Am I correct? That's right.
That's right, Phil. In fact, it covers all of Northern California from the Monterey Bay all the way north of Healdsburg. It is a flamethrower.
That's great. We've been friends for years, and he's been very helpful to me, and I always enjoy having him on. Craig, welcome aboard. I don't even know where to begin because, first of all, I'd love to talk about the politics, but let's first go into. I sit here every day, and because I do a business show, and I just watch the stock market. It's going nowhere. It's about 25 days that we've had a range of about 1.5%. We've never had such a narrow range in the history of this market. And it's like everybody's waiting for another quantitative easing and to, kick this ball up the street again. And I think another quantitative easing, I think that would be absolutely horrible. To push this market another 50 or 60%. I mean, it's just getting worse. I mean, the companies aren't making money. Our GDP's not growing. What's going on in your mind? What do you think's going on with all this?
Well, a lot of it, I think, Phil, goes back to the fact that following the economic downturn of 2008, 2009, the government felt compelled to step in and do something to try to stave off a 1930s-style Great Depression. And in doing so, they pulled out of their bag of tricks about the only trick they had left, and that was printing money. And we have done so like a drunken sailor on leave. When you consider the fact that the deficit right now, in the course of the last 7.5 years, has more than doubled. In fact, under this current administration, the federal deficit is more than the past 43 administrations combined. It has to make you wonder. You continue to loan money out, borrow money. At some point, the rooster is going to have to come home and say, that's it, we're done for the evening. And I think that's the reason why we've seen this sense of stagnation. I mean, Wall Street, as you point out, while the numbers have been superlative, well up over 18,000 pretty consistently here over the last few months, the volume of trading is practically nothing. And what few accounts that are out there that are seeing any activity is taking place because corporate America has been buying back the stocks, which might be good for them, but it's lousy if you're a stockholder. Goodbye dividends. So a lot of this artificial manipulation to try and shore up Wall Street to believe people into thinking that all is well. And yet you sit down and you talk to the average person on Main Street, and they know the truth. Stagflation, and it comes to wages, they're challenged by the fact that their dollar doesn't go anywhere nearly as far as it did. Some are sitting at the same level of wages that they enjoyed back in 1975. I mean, my goodness. You start to begin to calculate the quagmire that we find ourselves in, and you've got to wonder, does Janet Yellen really believe that there's any way out of this artificially? And I think the answer is no. The banks would love, I think, for them to come in and offer another quantitative easing, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think we can afford it.
No, and the other thing that really drives me crazy with like Hillary Clinton and Obama and this whole crew that support, they come out every day and they tell you everything's great. And it's like they're not looking at the numbers. I mean, today we just got some auto numbers. Those are terrible. Our manufacturing has fallen off a cliff. We don't have any productivity. But do you think people are that naive that they can come on and every day and tell them the economy's terrific? We turned it around. We have a recovery. I mean, how do you have a recovery? Where's the recovery? I don't see any recovery. And here's the thing gets me. They never fixed what was wrong. That's the problem. They never fixed what was wrong with these banks. And I don't understand how people can just sit back and believe them. But they've got to, because look at the polls.
Well, and perhaps it's not as much a degree of naivete as that they are just easily led astray and they don't want to get confused by the taxes. I like the quote from Ronald Reagan back when he ran against Walter Mondale 30-something years ago. He begged the question, just answer yourself this, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? Well, ask yourself the question, are taxes lower or higher today than they were 8 years ago? Are your health care benefits and premiums better or worse than they were 8 years ago? Is the number of Americans currently in the workforce higher or lower than it was 8 years ago? Is the trade deficit any better today, or is it worse than it was 8 years ago? And, you begin to start looking at the hard, cold facts here, and you realize our economy is hanging on by its white knuckles, and it would not take much in the geopolitical realm to see this whole thing hiccup. I mean, we even saw the way the markets reacted short term toward Brexit. Now imagine if something major happened, like a 9/11 style hit. We're coming up on the 15th anniversary of the attack on New York in barely a week here. Imagine if something like that happened again, either in the United States or in the capital of one of our major allies. What it could do, or a major bank defaulting on a loan. Look at the challenges that Japan is facing right now. They had this big meeting back there, and where do they do it every year? Montana, I think. And Japan is begging for some easing because of the challenges that they've been facing in relationship to stagnation and inflation for so long, and yet no relief in sight. So I think the reality here is that there is a false sense of security. People like to be lulled into a word or two given in these 30-second sound bites by the president or some official out of Washington, D.C. Rest calmly, everything is well, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. And the reality is you pull back the curtain, and there's just a little short guy there that's about 2 feet tall pulling all the reins. And I think, sadly enough, there's going to come a limit to the degree to which we can falsely prop up this market.
Well, and the other thing too is the Obamacare. Have you seen what's going on with this? This is nuts. The Obamacare, the premiums. I mean, now these are premiums for 2017. They're saying they're going to be anywhere from 23 to 42% higher. And then they bring on, I don't know if you saw this interview. I'll play some cuts for you because I'd love to get your opinion. They bring on Zeke Emanuel. I mean, when I look at this guy, I'm not even near him. I count my fingers. But this guy is the architect, and listen to what he says when he's asked about the Obamacare. Just amazing.
The first point is we have insured 20 million people. So whatever your version of failure is, that's a big improvement. And we now have less than 30 million Americans without insurance. That's a substantial improvement.
Craig, that's not true. Most of those 20 million people were Medicare.
That's exactly right. It's just political sleight of hand. And here's the reality. In 2017, Aetna, one of the biggest health insurers in the country, will close down 11 of the 15 exchanges that it's currently participating in. You've seen more than half. They started with 28 nonprofit exchanges 2 years ago when this was first rolled out with great pomp and circumstance. Half of those nonprofit exchanges have gone bankrupt. And, the old adage, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. And, you're going to realize a $2,500 a year reduction in your premiums when just the opposite was true. It's gone up by $2,500. And more medical groups, foundations, and hospitals are looking at this, Phil, saying we can't afford to take the premiums or the compensation that's being offered to us by Obamacare. So we're just going to simply have to say, if you're an Obamacare patient, we don't accept your insurance.
Stay tuned. I'll be right back with my special guest, Craig Roberts of 1220 KDOW in San Francisco. Join my gang, Phil's Gang. We'll be right back here on Phil's Gang. It's 15 past the hour. What are you, nuts?
Want more information on this show? Go to philsgang.com or give them a call at 877-600-GANG.
Hi, I'm Phil Grandy, philsgang.com. It's always about fees. That's right. It's always about fees. When you're investing in anything, it's about fees, but especially 401ks. Let me explain to you how you get screwed with a 401k. Nobody will tell you this. You'll be told with a $25,000 investment, your 401k will return 7%, and over 30 years, you'll retire with a nest egg of $226,000 with a fee of 0.5%. That is a lie. Do you know if you just bump it from 0.5% to 1.5%, that $226,000 drops to $160? With 2% fee, it drops to $123. But you know what most fees are? 3%. So you're going to drop almost below $100,000. Join my gang, philsgang.com, and get rid of that 401k. It is not for your benefit.
Isn't it time you reduce your fear of investing? Find out more at philsgang.com, philsgang.com, or call 877-600-4264, 877-600-4264, 877-600-4264.
Hi, I'm Phil Grandy at philsgang.com. You hear me talk about 401ks every day on my radio show. Why? Because it's such a disservice. 89 million Americans have a 401k. There's 638,000 plans. And the father of the 401k, Ted Brenner, even admitted they're a scam. He doesn't endorse them anymore because of the ridiculous fees. You got to get away from those fees. Remember, every 1% fee, they take 30% of your retirement money. The average fund is 2.5%. 60% of the money is going to be gone when you're ready to retire. You don't need to do that. There's an alternative. Join my gang, philsgang.com. philsgang.com. Seek out the alternative. Give yourself a break. philsgang.com. Sign up today.
Find out more at philsgang.com, philsgang.com, or call 877-600-4264, 877-600-4264, 877-600-4264. Are you ready to get serious about your financial future? You know, reduce your debt, pay off those student loans, and prepare for retirement. Taking control of your finances can be intimidating, but with philsgang.com, you will be educated and guided to make smart investment decisions in the stock market. If the market is up or down, philsgang.com is the only source where you'll learn how to trade stocks and how to invest in the stock market using professional-level skills and strategies. For more information, go to philsgang.com or call 877-600-GANG, 877-600-4264. That's 877-600-4264.
Hi, I'm Phil Grandy, philsgang.com. It's always about fees. That's right. It's always about fees. When you're investing in anything, it's about fees, but especially 401ks. Let me explain to you how you get screwed with a 401k. Nobody will tell you this. You'll be told with a $25,000 investment, your 401k will return 7%, and over 30 years, you'll retire with a nest egg of $226,000 with a fee of 0.5%. That is a lie. Do you know if you just bump it from 0.5% to 1.5%, that $226,000 drops to $160? With 2% fee, it drops to $123. But you know what most fees are? 3%. So you're going to drop almost below $100,000. Join my gang, philsgang.com, and get rid of that 401k. It is not for your benefit.
Isn't it time you reduce your fear of investing? Find out more at philsgang.com, philsgang.com, or call 877-600-4264, 877-600-4264, 877-600-4264.
As a mother, you don't want to have to worry about this bill is coming, but then she needs this chemo. That's a decision you shouldn't have to make.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
The treatment doesn't get any better than what you receive at St. Jude. It saved my life. It saved my daughter's life. It saved our family.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures. Saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Do you invest in a 401k or an IRA? Did you know you could lose 30, 40, even 50% of your investments when the market crashes? It's time you take control of your investments. For over 15 years, philsgang.com's Phil Grandy has been teaching, coaching, and investing right along with all Phil's Gang members, making profits when the market is up or down. philsgang.com posts daily market updates, has a live investing class, and all material is archived. Sounds too good to be true? Why not join thousands of satisfied Phil's Gang customers today? Go to philsgang.com, philsgang.com, or call 877-600-GANG. That's 877-600-4264. 877-600-4264.
For more information, simply go to philsgang.com or call 877-600-GANG. That's 877-600-4264.
philsgang.com.
You're listening to the best of Phil's Gang.
Welcome back to the Phil's Gang Show. This segment is brought to you by the Max Investor 1000 Stock Charts. For more information, go to philsgang.com.
Happy Labor Day, gang. Please enjoy my conversation with my good friend Craig Roberts. Yeah, and then this is one I love here. Here, I'll just play it and get your comment.
In many of the states you identify where we don't have enough insurers, that is a long-standing problem of rural areas, and I totally agree we need to address it. It is not escaping, but it's not a problem that the Affordable Care Act created.
Of course it is. Florida, we're suffering over here. Florida, we got, maybe one major carrier here. You got to love this guy.
Well, Obamacare was built on a pack of lies from the very beginning, and I have to believe there had to have been some kind of collusion going on with the big insurance companies and the administration when this bill was first passed into law. I mean, you had to be curious why nobody seemed to be challenging this. And, hey, wouldn't any business like to have Congress pass a law saying you have to buy my services or goods? At the end of the day, this is what they did not take into consideration, that you have to have more people insured that don't call for insurance benefits than do. If you got a block with 10 houses on it, Phil, and every house in the block buys insurance, one house burns down, the premiums of the other remaining 9 help to rebuild that house. But if you have 10 people on the block and 9 houses burn down, guess what? Your insurance situation is going to be absolutely upside down, and that's what's happened here. All the people that had pre-existing conditions who heretofore could not qualify for health insurance or couldn't afford to pay the premiums or were working part-time and weren't offered insurance through their companies all took advantage of Obamacare. Now, of course, you've got all these people coming into the system. They haven't seen a doctor in years. They've got this problem, that problem. They're spending tons of money. Well, good for them. They're finally getting health care. Meanwhile, the insurance companies, and believe me, I'm not a shill for the insurance companies, but when you've got major carriers saying in 1 year we lost $480 million, how long does anybody think that's sustainable before these companies say, that's it, we're done, we're out altogether, we're just going to shut up our business?
Well, I never understood the business model. I mean, all I know about insurance companies, they run away from older people. They run away from people who aren't healthy. I mean, they don't want anything to do with them. And then Obama comes in. He says, that's what we want. We want to take the older people. We want to take the people they're not healthy. We want people that are that already have a problem with cancer. Or I mean, how could anyone think in their right mind that kind of business model could ever exist? I mean, that's not how insurance companies exist.
Well, and then you say, well, all these people now have insurance for the first time. Well, sure, you also pulled $700 million out of Medicare and shifted that money over to Obamacare. And, of course, now that means that all of the Medicare recipients, the elderly and impoverished that had benefits, well, now they're going to be squeezed. And so, I mean, the financial formula for this was a disaster in the first place, and I am thoroughly convinced this was designed to do one thing. The altruistic public presentation was, we want to make sure that every American has access to health care. Okay, that sounds good. But the behind closed doors reality was this was intentionally designed to bust the backs of the insurance companies and the current health care system in America to force us into the single payer system. And I tell you what, if it heads down that road, America will go from providing the best health care anywhere in the world to some of the worst you have ever seen. And you will demotivate pharmaceutical companies and inventors and others in medical innovation. You will completely demotivate them from continuing on their work, because at the end of the day, listen, they got to make a profit at this too. Shareholders want to make a profit. Shut down the profit motivation, and guess what? Who's going to spend billions of dollars to try and find a cure for cancer if there's not going to be money in it? I mean, that's just the reality in which the world works.
Yeah, and it just amazes me. I want to switch over, if I may, Craig. And by the way, we're talking to my best friend here, Craig Roberts from KDOW. At Salem Communication, KDOW 1220 in San Francisco, and he's been doing that program, I think, for 400 years, haven't you?
Easily.
Easily.
I was standing right next to Marconi when it all began, Phil.
but I say this respectfully because he's been there for a long time, and you should pick up that program. I love his program. I listen to it. And it's a real great program, and you do great service for your community. Let's talk to immigration, because I know California, like Florida, is very sensitive. What's the take out there with the immigration situation with Trump?
I think there's a couple of levels here. Number one, even when you talk to immigrants, they say, yes, the system is indeed broken. We just do not have the capacity to absorb all of these immigrants that come in. We have to control our borders. Any sovereign nation has a right to secure and control its borders. But, there's another big issue that we're struggling with here, specifically in California, and that is not just a problem as it relates to illegal immigration, but also a problem that relates to legal immigration. These HB1 visas, Phil, that allow companies to bring in workers from overseas. They're not coming in and taking the jobs that are working in the lettuce fields in San Joaquin Valley. These are not people that are coming in and taking over jobs to change down your bed sheets in the hotel that you stayed at while on vacation in San Francisco. They're coming in and they're taking high-tech jobs. And the fact that these companies to come in and take a position that's worth $80,000 a year, reduce the salary to $50,000, nobody accepts the job because they know it's worth more than that. Then they turn around and say, well, we can't find anybody, so send us some HB1 workers from China or from India. They come into the country and they're taking the high-paying jobs. Nobody has ever spoken about that issue except Donald Trump.
You're right, because they're always talking about, what they're doing is they're coming in, taking the jobs of the folks who, didn't graduate from high school, and, they're taking those jobs. And you're absolutely right. Nobody talks about that except Trump.
Well, look at the investment from China alone. They spent $29.4 billion in American investments in 2015. So far, they've spent $17 billion in this year. And over the course of the last 10 years, we've seen a 4 times increase in the so-called L-series visas that are being offered to Chinese workers. So what's happening? China's coming in and they're buying up all these U.S. companies, and then they're bringing the leadership and the staff over from China to run them. So this is not creating jobs in America. It's taking jobs away from Americans, and nobody has been willing to discuss this fact.
Greg, I got to take a break, and when we come back, I want to get your take on the dollar. We'll be right back here on the Phil's Gang Radio Show.
You're listening to the best of Phil's Gang. Want more information on this show? Go to philsgang.com or give them a call at 877-600-GANG.
Hi, I'm Phil Grandy at philsgang.com. Everybody says, I hear it everywhere, no matter where I go, I'm not going to get in the stock market because it's rigged. And I think, what are you, nuts? That's exactly why I want to get into the market. Here, listen to this.
We front-loaded at the Federal Reserve an enormous rally in order to accomplish a wealth effect.
But we front-loaded at the Federal Reserve an enormous rally. So are you telling me you don't want to get into a market where they front-loaded an enormous rally, where they fixed it to go up? You don't want to get in? What are you, nuts? Of course you want to get in. See, your fear is, once you get in, you're fearful you're not going to get out in time. Well, that fear is gone. That's why I designed the Max Vesta 1000, the color-coded technology. It'll get you out before it crashes. Believe me. Join my gang, philsgang.com.
Isn't it time you reduce your fear of investing? Find out more at philsgang.com, philsgang.com, or call 877-600-4264, 877-600-4264, 877-600-4264.
Hi, I'm Phil Grandy at philsgang.com. You hear me talk about 401ks every day on my radio show. Why? Because it's such a disservice. 89 million Americans have a 401k. There's 638,000 plans. And the father of the 401k, Ted Brenner, even admitted they're a scam. He doesn't endorse them anymore because of the ridiculous fees. You got to get away from those fees. Remember, every 1% fee, they take 30% of your retirement money. The average fund is 2.5%. 60% of the money is going to be gone when you're ready to retire. You don't need to do that. There's an alternative. Join my gang, philsgang.com. philsgang.com. Seek out the alternative. Give yourself a break. philsgang.com. Sign up today.
Find out more at philsgang.com, philsgang.com, or call 877-600-4264, 877-600-4264, 877-600-4264. Phil Grandy is a career businessman who's also been an entrepreneur all his life. He's used his business skills to take companies on the abyss of bankruptcy and bringing them back to profitability. Phil has been honored by Inc. magazine for the 500 fastest growing privately held companies and has been recognized with the prestigious Entrepreneur of the Year award. From the real estate to gas and oil industries to the stock market, Phil Grandy has mastered his line of business from start to finish. And with a passion and desire to make you a profitable investor, only Phil teaches you and guides you to make informed, unemotional investment decisions. And you'll gain the knowledge of what Wall Street doesn't want you to know. If you want to learn from the best and strengthen your ability to invest, then turn to Phil Grandy and philsgang.com. Simply call Phil's Gang at 877-600-GANG. That's 877-600-4264. Or go to philsgang.com.
Hi, I'm Phil Grandy of philsgang.com. We're a teaching format, and boy, do we give good service. You know, buying a stock doesn't have to be complicated. The reason why Wall Street makes it complicated, so to make you think you need to hire them. You can do better without them, believe me, because you're not going to have those big fees. Come to Phil's Gang, where we'll show you easy way to buy a stock. philsgang.com, where we don't make it complicated, but profitable.
For more information, go to philsgang.com or give us a call. That's 877-600-4264.
As a mother, you don't want to have to worry about this bill is coming, but then she needs this chemo. That's a decision you shouldn't have to make.
El que San Jude no cobra ni un centavo para nosotros significa quitarnos todo ese estrés, esa preocupación y podernos enfocar en nuestra hija.
That was the first thing I was like, how are we going to do this? When St. Jude told us that we didn't have to pay a single bill, I was like, wow. They pretty much have saved us.
It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders, and now your focus is supporting this child.
There is not another hospital like St. Jude. The patient care is unmatchable. It saved my life. It saved my daughter's life. It saved our family.
My name is Bill Kaufman, and I have been a gang member for 14 years. I am very excited and impressed with the new MV1 and MV2 software chart. I love the easy readability. Phil has added pre- and post-market candlesticks and the ability to create stock lists. The charts can now be viewed on your smartphone or tablet. I would recommend the Max Vector 1000 chart to any type of investor.
Find out more at philsgang.com or call 877-600-4264, 877-600-4264. You're listening to the best of Phil's Gang. Welcome back to the Phil's Gang Show. Learn, invest, and profit with Phil Grandy. And be sure to check out philsgang.com.
Welcome back to Phil's Gang Radio Show. My special guest is Craig Roberts. Let's talk about the dollar for a moment. I want to get your take on the dollar. Have you seen the dollar lately?
Oh, yeah.
What's your opinion? Why do you think there? I mean, I don't see a big demand for the dollar. I mean, I get when they say, okay, they always come out and say, we're going to raise interest rates, the economy's doing good. So then you get the Europeans, they dump their euro and they buy the dollar, so they come here and buy stocks. But I'm not seeing that happen this time. If you remember last year, every time Aunt B came out and said, hey, we're going to raise rates, the dollar go up and the stock market went up. It's not happening this time, but the dollar continues to go up, and I go, it's just the demand. None of the things that make the dollar go up, it's not there.
Well, and again, this is once again the fact that the fundamentals are not there. I mean, you look at Wall Street. There's nothing to suggest that we should be at over 18,000 points on the Dow. The price earnings ratios are completely upside down. A lot of the volume that we're seeing is because of companies buying back their stock and essentially sticking it to their stockholders, sadly. And I think the same thing has largely been true of the dollar. And, as far as the euro has been concerned, I mean, it was barely, 10 years ago, they said, in a short period of time, the euro is going to replace the dollar as the standard across the world. Well, I guess we'd have to ask the question, how's that working out for you so far? But, again, it goes back to the idea that we've taken America since the 1970s under Richard Nixon off of the gold standard. This thing is allowed to fluctuate and do so wildly. And I think now the hands are really tied. The person I don't want to be is Janet Yellen. First, I don't look good in a dress. Number two, the challenge that they're facing, if there's another major geopolitical hiccup, as I suggested earlier, that has any sort of impact on Wall Street, what is left to them?
That's right. They should have raised rates in 2012.
Where are you going to go with all of this? And, it's also kind of fascinating to note what's going on with banking. I mean, there was just a report here the other day. The central bankers are frustrated because the money is stuck at, 0 to 0.25 basis points. And as a result of all of this, there's just no productivity going on, neither here nor in Europe. And what do you do? I mean, if they came in and started raising the rates back to something that would be considered reasonable, you would bankrupt this country overnight. 25 basis points, we can afford that on $19 trillion of indebtedness. But take it up to a percentage or two where it used to be historically, 3%. You'd bankrupt this country overnight. China could come in and say, guess what? We own the White House, Congress, and everything in it because we're going to come in and collect on our money since you've defaulted.
Yeah, if I'm right, I think every 1% is like $200 billion more.
That's exactly right.
Like that.
That's exactly right.
That's why I don't understand how they can think that they're going to raise rates. Because to me, the interest rates, the interest rates where it is now benefits the government, because they're borrowing cheap money, and it benefits Wall Street. So what's the incentive for them to raise rates?
Well, that's exactly it. The sad thing is it does not benefit Main Street. I mean, yes, okay, low interest rates, that means low inflation, but it also means low growth. Consider the fact that this is the first administration, fascinating number, this is the first administration since Roosevelt, and we'll recall he came on board back in 1933, right on the heels of the worst depression America had ever faced. And you have to go all the way back to Roosevelt's first term in office to find a single year when GDP didn't break 3%. And yet, over the last 7 years, this administration has yet a single time to break 3% GDP. I think the highest year was 3-4 years ago. We did something like 2.45. And right now it's hovering around 1. So, productivity is down, interest rates are down, the ROI is down, price-earnings ratios are all wacko, and yet we'd like to be convinced by certain candidates for the presidency that all is well, and we've survived beautifully. And, America is a strong, healthy country, and unfortunately, that's just the window dressing.
Well, the other concern, too, is of course, the retirees. I think there's a real crisis here, and nobody's talking about that either. What's your take?
Well, again, the fragility of Wall Street right now is such. And look, the smart ones like you know how to make money on Wall Street by shorting. You know how to make money even in down times. But the average retiree out there who's got some money thrown into an IRA or self-directed vehicle of some sort, they realize that, well, there's some degree to which they have to be in equities. They've got to have some risk position in order to at least keep up with inflation running at, 2.5%, not including the cost of food and fuel, which I've always got a big kick out of that. Government releases the inflation rates and says, we're at only 2%, and they don't calculate the cost of food or fuel. So if you don't eat or go anywhere while you're retired, you're in great shape. For the rest of us, the challenge is if you're in those equity positions in order to be able to at least break even with interest or with inflation rather, then what happens if there's another 2008, 2009 style crash? Well, you lose a third of your savings, and now you have no time to rebuild. And quite frankly, I've got to believe as we see the baby boomer generation, there's 10,000 of us a day that become eligible for retirement. As we continue to see those numbers grow and putting more and more stress on Social Security, we have an unprecedented number of workers that are out of the workforce altogether. We have an unprecedented number of people that are out on permanent disability. I think something like 10 million people since 2009 have been added added to the disabled rolls that are all receiving Social Security checks now as well. At some point, and I know Donald Trump has said he doesn't want to reduce payments. He would rather not touch the eligibility age. But at the end of the day, something's going to have to give here, because even Social Security itself is going to become at risk, because you're going to have a government that does not have the ability to back the money.
Yeah, and the other thing that I'd like to get your take on is what really gets me grumpy is when everybody takes the market. The narrative is the market, reflects the economy, and that makes no sense, because companies are global. So how can they take the position? This administration, I remember Obama, Michelle came out. She said, "Oh, look what my husband did. It's really doing great. The market's doing good. That means the economy's doing good." The people on television, like MSNBC. Oh my God, MSNBC. That's just a total channel now for Hillary. But I think when they get to the point that they're trying to, how dangerous is that? They're trying to convince people that the stock market reflects the economy. In no way. It doesn't even make any sense to say that.
Well, I've got 94 million people in this country, Phil, 94 million people who are out of the labor force that would probably like to differ with any observer that would suggest that there is a direct correlation between the health of the U.S. economy and Wall Street. We have, I think, categorically across the board learned since 2009, through the ability of the Treasury to print money and the manipulation that's been going on through stock buybacks and things of this sort, that what happens on Wall Street is not a reflection of Main Street whatsoever. Look at the price-earnings ratios. Show me companies that are showing a healthy ROI. It's very rare that you can find them. Most of these companies are being able to stay in the black simply because they're constantly cutting staff. We've seen a whole spate of that taking place even here in the San Francisco Bay Area. In the high-tech sector, there's sort of this shift from the old-fashioned, server-based systems where there's a lot of hardware involved, and now today everybody's migrating toward the cloud. It's cheaper. It's less cash expenditure from an investment standpoint for companies, and so as a result, we're seeing big companies like Intel and HP coming in saying, "Okay, we're shaving off another 5,000 jobs this year," and so the notion that there's a reflection of the health of the economy anywhere within what happens on Wall Street on a day-to-day basis is just absolute fool's folly.
And boy, do they try to do that. I'm interviewing my best friend, Craig Roberts, KDOW 1220. He's been there for a long time. Great show, great friend. Done an awful lot for us, I can tell you that. Enjoy having you. Enjoy getting your perspective, because all my listeners and my gang members get my perspective every day. So we really appreciate getting your perspective. We'll be right back after this break. 43 past the hour.
You're listening to the best of Phil's Gang. Want more information on this show? Go to philsgang.com or give them a call at 877-600-GANG.
Hi, I'm Phil Grandy at philsgang.com. You hear me talk about 401ks every day on my radio show. Why? Because it's such a disservice. 89 million Americans have a 401k. There's 638,000 plans. And the father of the 401k, Ted Brenner, even admitted they're a scam. He doesn't endorse them anymore because of the ridiculous fees. You got to get away from those fees. Remember, every 1% fee, they take 30% of your retirement money. The average fund is 2.5%. 60% of the money is going to be gone when you're ready to retire. You don't need to do that. There's an alternative. Join my gang, philsgang.com. philsgang.com. Seek out the alternative. Give yourself a break. philsgang.com. Sign up today.
Find out more at philsgang.com, philsgang.com, or call 877-600-4264, 877-600-4264, 877-600-4264.
Hi, I'm Phil Grandy at philsgang.com. People make it too complicated. Wall Street tells you the market cap and the trailing PE and the forward PE and price to sales to confuse you. All you need to know is, does the stock have volume? What's that mean? Energy. What does that mean? If you have people buying a stock, enough of the stock's being bought, it influences the prices to go up. Join my gang, philsgang.com. We're using charting, philsgang.com.
For more information, go to philsgang.com or give us a call. That's 877-600-4264.
Do you invest in a 401k or an IRA? Did you know you could lose 30, 40, even 50% of your investments when the market crashes? It's time you take control of your investments. For over 15 years, Phil'sGang.com's Phil Grandy has been teaching, coaching, and investing right along with all Phil's Gang members, making profits when the market is up or down. Phil'sGang.com posts daily market updates, has a live investing class, and all material is archived. Sounds too good to be true? Why not join thousands of satisfied Phil's Gang customers today? Go to philsgang.com, philsgang.com, or call 877-600-GANG. That's 877-600-4264. 877-600-4264.
For more information, simply go to philsgang.com or call 877-600-GANG. That's 877-600-4264.
philsgang.com.
As a mother, you don't want to have to worry about this bill is coming, but then she needs this chemo. That's a decision you shouldn't have to make.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
The treatment doesn't get any better than what you receive at St. Jude. It saved my life. It saved my daughter's life. It saved our family.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Hi, I'm Phil Grandy, philsgang.com. It's always about fees. That's right. It's always about fees. When you're investing in anything, it's about fees, but especially 401ks. Let me explain to you how you get screwed with a 401k. Nobody will tell you this. You'll be told with a $25,000 investment, your 401k will return 7%, and over 30 years, you'll retire with a nest egg of $226,000 with a fee of 0.5%. That is a lie. Do you know if you just bump it from 0.5% to 1.5%, that $226,000 drops to $160? With 2% fee, it drops to $123. But you know what most fees are? 3%. So you're going to drop almost below $100,000. Join my gang, philsgang.com, and get rid of that 401k. It is not for your benefit.
Isn't it time you reduce your fear of investing? Find out more at philsgang.com, philsgang.com, or call 877-600-4264, 877-600-4264, 877-600-4264. You're listening to the best of Phil's Gang. Are you ready to make profits in the stock market? Why not check out philsgang.com or give us a call, 877-600-4264.
Please enjoy my conversation with my good friend Craig Roberts. I'd like to finish this up. Give me your perspective on where do you think this election is going to go? I mean, do you think that you think that Trump, there's a great many people who will vote for him? I'm talking even the black community, okay? Because it was great what he said. I love what he said about the black community. He said, "What would you lose? What would you lose? Voting for me." So, what is your take? Do you think there's a lot of people who are just not admitting they like him, they're not going to vote for him? I mean, do you think at the end, didn't we have a situation like that with Reagan too? I recall. Remember,
we certainly did. There were a lot of people that were not big fans of Ronald Reagan, and then all of a sudden you found out all these so-called blue Democrats or the Reagan Democrats just came out of the woodwork, and after a few years in office, proudly admitted, yes, they voted for him, but they dare tell you that in November of 1980. I think you're going to find that there's probably a larger percentage, Phil, of voters who are going to step into the polling place on November the 8th and pull the handle that says Donald Trump than will admit to it to any pollster today. I mean, yes, there's a guy that kind of, doesn't have the most suave way with words. The interesting thing is he's been criticized for not being more presidential-like and a little bit more careful or wise in the way he chooses his words. And yet the interesting thing is I don't think he would have gotten to where he's at today if it wasn't for the fact that he shoots straight from the hip. He tells you what he's thinking, and yes, it's maybe a little bit less delicate than what we're used to, but at the end of the day, don't we want a little bit of honesty for a change coming out of the White House? I think that's what more and more Americans find attractive. And I think the other thing, too, is as more of the nefarious activities of Hillary Clinton come to the surface, Julian Assange from WikiLeaks is suggesting there's going to be another huge data dump related to her emails and the sort of, pay for access to America's top diplomat business has been going on between the Clinton Foundation and her time as Secretary of State. I think as more of that comes to light, and more people, I think, have to ask the question, are the borders more safe and secure today than they were 8 years ago? Are relationships with Russia better or worse today? North Korea's saber rattling, is it better or worse today than it was 8 years ago? Her own economic status, are you ahead or behind compared to where you were 8 years ago? And I think most people, in answering that question and looking at these two candidates, I think there's going to be a chance that Donald Trump is going to do much better than even some of the pollsters are suggesting. I saw today, I opened up AOL, and they were suggesting that Hillary Clinton was going to beat the election or beat Donald Trump in the election by 80%. Now, beyond the fact, I don't think there's a president in history that's done, save maybe Washington, I don't think there's a president in history that's ever had those kinds of numbers. But a lot of this is the fact that they feel uncomfortable with Trump because they don't know what to do with Trump.
And how much of this the debates are going to play in this in the election?
Well, the debates, I don't know if they're probably good for more entertainment value than anything else. Is this going to be a repeat of the 1960 debate between Kennedy and Nixon? It's hard to say. Hillary Clinton is very articulate. She has performed historically very well when it comes to debates. At the same token, we also know that he takes the gloves off, and he's not going to mince any words. And she's going to have some tough things for which she will find it very, very difficult to answer. If he sticks to the core issues of what's going on with jobs, job creation, the economy, what's going on in terms of terrorism in this country, dealing with the issues of integrity when it comes to, emails, lying about emails, Benghazi, her history of time both in the Senate and as Secretary of State, and the Clinton Foundation, and the millions and millions of dollars that people paid in just to get access to America's top diplomat. If he stays on point on some of these key factors for which she cannot bring about any kind of a reasonable, articulate answer, I think he'll do very well in the debates.
Well, that's great. And I just, again, folks, it's been a real pleasure because Craig Roberts, you want to catch his show, he's on KDOW 1220. I got to get the Pacific time right. Is it 9?
We're on 8 o'clock Saturday mornings.
8 o'clock Saturday mornings, right. It's at 1220. And also we got a news station, KTRB 860. Are you going to be doing something with that station?
Yeah, we're going to start doing Money Pulse on our new sister station out here, AM 860. The Answer, coming up real soon.
Oh, that's great. Well, this has been a joy for me. I like being on the other doing the interview. It gives me a rest. But again, it's a different perspective, and we get together, and I really enjoyed it, and I really appreciate it. I know my audience did too. So, Craig, look, thank you very, very much. Good health, and again, we really appreciate it.
Our pleasure, Phil. Always great chance to spend some time with you and your listeners.
You're listening to the best of Phil's gang.
As interest rates push up, the bond rate goes up. What you want to do is make sure you keep that. You want to make sure you keep that yield down. You want to make sure that yield stays down, that the bond yield stays low. Because if that bond yield keeps going up, then that means on a 10-year Treasury, your house payment gets more expensive, your credit cards get more expensive, everything gets more expensive. So what they've been doing is they've been keeping the bond yield real low, and we got to give credit where it's due. That is because the oil-producing countries, they come over and buy our debt. We have between $800 billion and $1 trillion a year, depending on what year it is, that we spend more than we take in, 800 to $1 trillion. So we got to get that money from somewhere. We got to pay our bills. So we go to an oil-producing country. They come over here. They give us, let's say it was $800 billion. We run short. They gave us the $800 billion. We hand them a 10-year bond, 10-year Treasury note, and they get an interest rate of 1.5%. It's not a lot, but they get the 1.5%. You want to keep that. You want to keep that yield low, as low as you can. So you need people buying these bonds. Well, the biggest problem we got right now, because by buying bonds, you keep that yield low. As I said, your credit card stays low. Your house mortgage stays low, so that's very important. But we got a big problem right now. The oil-producing countries, their oil price is so low, they're not buying as many bonds. In the last year, they bought $354 billion less bonds. So that means the interest rate's going to start going up. The interest rate's going to start going up. If that interest rate keeps going up, then your car payment goes up. Your MasterCard, your credit cards go up. But here's the worst thing. When that interest rate goes up, the Fed rate goes up. That's a different rate. You have two rates. You have the long-term rate, which is the 10-year Treasury, which affects your house mortgage and your car and credit card and so forth. Then you have the short-term. The short-term Fed rate is the rate at which the Federal Reserve charges the banks for the money. The banks borrow from the Federal Reserve money. And right now it's at near 0%. And then they take that money and they loan it to you. Most of the time they're loaning it to businesses. And most of the time they're loaning it to government. There's the problem. That's why they can't raise rates. So we got a real problem here. If we keep going the way we're going and the oil-producing countries are buying less and less of our bonds and our rates start going up, our economy is really going to tank. So they're going to have to do what they call QE, another QE. What does QE do? QE, they print money, and then the Federal Reserve, will take that money and she'll start buying bonds. She'll take the place of the oil companies, the oil producing countries. She'll buy all the bonds herself to keep those yields low. And then she'll take more money, and when they do that, they'll print more money and stick it in the stock market to push stocks higher. The last time was $3.3 trillion. They print more money and they give it to the companies. Last time was $5.3 billion to buy their own shares back. So the stock will go up without having profits. Imagine that. They'll do another $7 trillion to give the hedge funds to go buy stocks. So that means we're going to have the stock market go up 50, 60% from where it is if they do QE4. They have no choice. They're going to have to. Rates aren't going up. What's going to go up next is the next QE. And you want to be prepared for that. When these stocks start turning green, you want to have the MV2. But here's the more important one, why you want it. When the market gets ready to crash, which it will, we'll have the biggest crash ever, then that MV2 will be there to identify for you when the money is being pulled out. Stock markets just don't crash in a second or two or overnight or in one day. It takes time. The MV2 will start turning red, give you enough signal to get out before it drops. That's a beautiful thing. So try it for 4 weeks free. And you'll see the color, it works. The color technology works. The green to red, it works. So here's the number, 877-600-GANG. You just have to join the gang for 1 month. It's $39.95, but you get the MV2 free, which is $24.95. You get it free. But I'm going to tell you, you don't want to miss the next QE. And what you don't want to miss when you're in there, when to get out. Because the market will go up another 50% when they do QE.
You have been listening to Phil's Gang with your host, Phil Grandy, on the Off the Wall Street Radio Network. Off the Wall Street Radio Network. Remember to visit Phil's website at philsgang.com. That's philsgang.com. Or call the office, 877-600-4264. That's 877-600-4264.